gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyper-Conscious Podcast. We have a very special repeat guest who we have been lucky enough to see in person and chat with once before. He is a speaker, an author many times, a former championship basketball coach. He is now America's coach, and he is a monster producer. We are sitting down with the one and only Coach Micheal Burt. What is happening, my friend?
Man, I'm just excited. I'm excited to be with you. Love you guys' energy. And we're going to help some folks today. So that's the main goal. That's the main thing, is help a bunch of folks.
So let's just say hypothetically nobody heard the episode with you before. Can you just go into a little bit of who is Coach Burt today? What does he do? And why does he do what he does?
You know, I spent a decade of my life as a head women's basketball coach, and I was a deep disciple of Dr. Stephen Covey. So I was a deep disciple of how to engineer a person to build a competitive intelligence through the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. I really became a master at activating the prey drive in a person. So during that cycle at 25 years old, I started writing books when I was coaching my high school basketball team. And because we were winning so many games and the way in which we were winning with this competitive intelligence, people were constantly asking me, what are you doing with those kids? How is your team so connected? How do you have such chemistry and buy-in and trust and leadership? And I said, I don't have time to explain it, but I will begin writing books about it. So that would start the first. I think I've got 16 books out now in the market. So, and at 31 years old, I would retire from athletic coaching girls basketball to start a multi-million-dollar coaching company. So now we coach individuals, corporations, small businesses. I speak at conferences around the country right now, a lot of virtual conferences. And we believe we have a structure that can help a person get a significant increase in their life through our methodology.
Right on. Go ahead, Alan.
Okay, so I have this thing that I've been saying lately that I think you'll resonate with, but I want your take on it. I say there's three main reasons why people don't achieve success based on what they want. Number one, they don't have a system. Or number two, they do have a system, but it's not based on sound principles customized to their unique goals and their unique core values. Or they do have a system and it is customized to their own unique goals and values, and it is based on sound principles, but they don't do it consistently. I think those are the three main reasons why people do not succeed. Are there any holes in that from your perspective, and what could I add or take away?
Well, I want to think, I think those are three good ones. I think I look at the activation of prey drive as an instinctual ability inside of and lots of people, it can be activated through inspiration, motivation. There's actually 5 activators I talk about in a new book that I'm writing right now to activate that drive. But where people fall off the wagon is in persistence.
Kev, I've got him cutting out. Oh, crap.
A consistency, right? A daily effort to have muscle memory. And finally, an intensity of how they go after it, veracity, attack, how they play offense, how they move to it with passion and purpose. And typically people fall off the wagon in step 2 and step 3 in the persistence and the intensity piece.
How do you learn that? How do you learn persistence, especially, intense?
They have an intensity toward their goals based on their personality style. Can you create it? Absolutely. As a high school girls basketball coach, many of those players came in low on confidence, low on prey drive, low on competitive intelligence, and we put them into a framework and a structure that activated that drive in them. Maybe, right, that activated the prey drive in them. So the environment is very critical. If you work in an environment that's laid back, relaxed, there's no intensity from the leader, you can kind of go at your own pace, it doesn't activate that. But if you're in an environment where you're being challenged, where you're being pushed, where you're being corrected, where there's expectation, where there's minimums, then that could activate that drive in people that's maybe gone dormant. So I believe you can create a high prey drive environment.
So when you say minimums, what do you mean? Like a minimum bar that's set by the leader? And when you talk about leadership, who is the leader? And, I aspire, and I know Kevin does, to lead leaders. I know you do as well. What's your take on leadership, and what is minimum?
Well, the take on minimum is there's a minimum number. Like in my office, if you're on my sales team, the minimum is making 80 phone calls a day. That's the minimum, right? Because we believe in certain percentages. We believe that 16% of people will be open and inviting to an idea based on the law of diffusion and our own internal statistics. The leader is the coach. The leader is, like with me, I set the tone in my company. I set the leadership. I set the expectation. We encourage what we allow. So to me, if you have a passive organization, and I could show you all kinds of statistics, I'm actually doing some study on this right now, of when you have bad managers or bad leaders, how much money that costs a company when you have bad leaders and bad managers. And a good coach is going to recruit and develop great talent. They're going to coach and develop that talent. They're going to retain and activate that talent. Well, there's a lot of bad managers in the world, which cost companies millions of dollars because they don't have good managers. Here's an example. I coach a mortgage originator who became also the sales manager. Under the previous leadership, the most they ever did was like $48 million in a year of production. Okay, with the old manager. With the new manager, they're doing $125 million. You see the difference? I mean, that's a significant bump because of why? The manager. The manager is a coach. Now they got a good coach. Why do sports teams that have losing seasons bring in a new coach, and all of a sudden within 2 years they have winning seasons? And some of those even winning national championships, because the coach is better. So I would just encourage all your listeners and viewers out there, who's coaching you matters. Who's coaching my 7-year-old daughter matters. Who's coaching me? Who's coaching my wife? Who's coaching my team? It really matters. The better the coach, the better the team.
So Alan and I were talking about this in the preamble. I'm sure this was a question Alan was going to use, but I'm going to steal it. So how, number one, the coach that you get is going to be somewhat based on the goal that you have, right? Mm-hmm. How can you, if there's somebody listening right now who has never had a coach, and this was me, honestly, 4 years ago. Honestly, this was me. Never had a coach, had no idea why I should get one because I didn't necessarily have any ambition for something specific in the future. How do we convince people that maybe it's not Alan or myself or you, it's somebody? How do we convince them that hiring a coach will be the best thing that you could possibly do?
Oh, fire question.
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's obvious that with the coach you perform at a higher level with a good coach. I mean, I like every statistic in the world says those in sales that have a good coach earn 3 or 4 times the amount of money than those that don't. If you look at every major athlete in the world, they have a coach. If you look at every major artist in the world, they have vocal coaches. If you look at celebrities, they have acting coaches. If you look at most top CEOs in the world, I mean, look at the book, The $1 Trillion Coach. Bill Campbell was a coach to almost every major person in Silicon Valley, including Steve Jobs, including the guys at Google. I mean, when these guys have a coach, what does that say? I mean, he was called the $1 trillion coach because those he coached produce over $1 trillion of revenue. So when you think about it, to me, it's like a no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't you have a coach? But the reality is, people look at coaches as, why would I pay for someone to coach me in that area? Like, why they look at it the wrong way. They look at it as an expense. Like, I can't tell you, we make, like I said, hundreds of phone calls a day out of my office, and I can't tell you how many people go, I'm performing at this level. I know I want to perform at this level, but I just can't spend the money on having Coach Burt coach me. Even if I show them, look, I'm coaching someone in your industry that's doing 10 times the amount you're doing. Right? Now, do you want to do this much or not? Yes, I do, but I'm scared to spend the money. It's like they don't want to invest in themselves. You're making an investment not in the coach. You're making an investment in you. You're making an investment in your skill set. You're making an investment in your learning. Okay? And I've had coaches that cost $10,000, $20,000. I mean, I've spent over $100,000 in a year in coaching for me. Why would I do that? To make $2 million, to make $4 million. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me, but it is very hard for people to pull that trigger. This morning, I was on the phone coaching a guy in Bulgaria, and he wants to come to my $1 million coaching summit. And that's where I coach people in how to speak, coach, train, lead, monetize a message. I've spent 28 years of my life coaching, right? So what I'm teaching people is, this is how you do it. This is how you write the 16 books. This is how you get paid to speak. This is how you build a multi-million-dollar coaching. And the dude said to me, I'm sick and tired, coach, of being sick and tired. I know I'm supposed to be doing something bigger. I know I need a message. I know I want to write books. Like, he was at that point that he's yearning for a coach. And that is a good place to be, because he's humble. He's hungry. He's coachable. He's teachable. I'm not beating him over the head. Listen, here's the deal. If a person makes over $1 million a year personally, or 10 million or whatever, and you don't, they know something you don't know. Okay. I don't know any other way to say it. Okay. If I make 10 times the amount of money than the person I'm trying to sell a coaching program to, I don't understand why that's complicated. Like, I know how to make a lot more money than you do. Like, I could show you how to do it. But it seems so logical,
Right.
but it's so hard, guys. Selling coaching is one of the hardest things in the world you could sell because it's an intangible. Okay. I made a decision probably 6 months ago to get in the best shape of my life. I'm down. I'm very lean. I'm much leaner than when I was with you guys last time. I'm at 168, which is my Mayweather weight. I was at 191 for a long time. And I made a simple decision to get on the eating plan I wanted to get on and to get in the workout program I wanted to get on. I had to make that decision. My wife couldn't make it. My friends couldn't make it. I had to make it. So I think about making that decision, how long I thought about that. How long I thought about getting to 168, how long I thought about getting in better shape, how long I talked about doing it, right? Until finally one day I was in Mexico speaking at a conference, and me and my wife were going outside by the pool. And I was like, man, I just don't, I'm lifting, but I don't feel good about my body, right? And I'm sick of not feeling good about my body. So I went inside, called one of my good friends. I said, all right, man, I'm ready to go. Let's go. There was no sale to be made. I made the decision to go. And that's really where you got to get to in life. When it comes to anything, you got to make a decision to go pro. Leave your amateur desires behind. Leave your amateur habits behind. Leave your amateur thought processes behind and freaking go pro. That's what you got to do.
Oh, that's so fire.
Love it.
So, Coach, I had one other coach. His name was Alex Goad, and he was extremely, extremely hard on me. And I gave him permission, 10 out of 10, give me the hard truth. And he told me right out of the gate, he said, Alan, the best coaches in the world will give you the truth, and the success that someone attains in life, from what I've found, this is him talking, is how much of the truth they can handle.
Yep.
And so we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but rattling their cage is necessary for them to get humbled and realize, like, there's another level and you need to learn this stuff. How do you personally balance that dance between, I don't want to hurt my clients' feelings, but I also want to tell them the truth, like, you're really not performing at the level you need to? Like, help me with that, please.
Yeah, this is another good question, because we live in such an emotionally weak society where people get their feelings hurt so easily. Part of the coach-player relationship is rebuking or correcting a person that is not headed in the right direction. Like, I was watching a sermon this morning. I start every day off with a sermon, and it was on the power of a teachable spirit. And it talked about having the humility to be teachable, to be corrected. Like, if you really study mastery is not attained through 10 years of just practice. It is attained through 10 years of practice with correction from a coach. Okay. Now, that correction is not always easy to give. This morning, my 7-year-old daughter had a terrible attitude, and she woke up angry and yelling at everybody. And man, I had to come down on her hard, guys. And it's not easy coming down on your kid, because I love her so much, but I couldn't tolerate her behavior. And I just said, look, this ain't gonna happen, right? You're not gonna do this. And I said, I love you. I love you, but I'm not gonna allow you to act like this. Okay. You're gonna be obedient. You're gonna be respectful of your family. You're gonna be appreciative of the life that you live. And she didn't like it. But then a few minutes later, we hugged, we made up, and I said, I love you. Have a great day. She said, I love you too, Daddy. What I love about my daughter is that I can go at her hard like that, and literally within 5 minutes, we kiss, make up, move on, right? But with an adult, you get hard on them and they stay mad at you for 6 months, and they pout and they whine and they complain and they feel sorry for themselves and they blame you. And so you made a good point there. I just asked people, do I have permission to give you constructive feedback? Like, are you open to some coaching? And I've never had a person tell me no, by the way. And I may say, you're not going to like what I'm going to tell you, but I got to tell you, like, you're paying me to tell you how to get to a higher frequency. Okay. Now I'm trying to tell you, but you're not listening to me. You're not in that coachable spirit. So I remember a manager that I was coaching who said to me right out of the gate, I just want you to know you've got an unlimited license to say whatever you got to say to me to help me get to a higher frequency. And I thought that was a great question, great point. Very few people would say that to you. You have an unlimited license. Whatever you got to say to me, say to me. It won't hurt my feelings. But isn't it true that some of the best advice you ever got in your life was when somebody came at you hard and you didn't like it?
Yeah.
And you didn't like the way they gave it to you. And remember that old saying, don't listen to listen to what the coach says. Don't listen to how he says it. You may not like the way people deliver information to you, but it could be exactly what you need to hear. I think back many years ago in 2012, I was in Riviera Maya, Mexico with Grant Cardone, Brad Lee, and Matt Monero, and some of those guys. And I was talking about my local market, Nashville. Like, I'm going to go back and dominate Nashville and this and that. And Cardone looked at me and he said, man, I need you to quit talking like that. And I said, what do you mean quit talking like that? He's like, quit talking about Nashville. He's like, your market is planet Earth. That's what you need to be talking about. You can sell to anybody on the freaking planet, the whole Earth. Okay. And I was like, and he kind of said it to me like in a real sharp way, but I came back and I said, he's right. We need to put all of our programs online. Like I said, this was 7-8 years ago. We need to put all of our programs online. We need to have an online academy. We need to simulcast all over the world. Because of how he said it to me, I came back and did it, which is why I was coaching a guy in Bulgaria this morning, not in Nashville. So it's interesting. I teach live every month, but there's more people watching online than are in the room, because now we sell to an international audience, so I needed to hear that. That was coaching.
I have a multi-part question. So first, and this is something that I've seen a lot. So Alan and I are both peak performance coaches. He does business in fitness. I do podcast coaching and mindset, right? If you're out there looking for a coach, now is the easiest time probably ever to find one. But it's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, it's probably the easiest time to get hoodwinked by somebody who looks like a coach, but actually isn't really a coach. They're just good at marketing. So if you're listening right now, for our listeners, what are some of the things to go off of a checklist in order to find a good coach? That's first question. And then what makes a good student is my second question.
Fireman.
Well, the first question is, I look at the demonstrated capacities of a person, meaning what have they done personally in their lives? I mean, let's take, how many times have you gone to the gym and seen an out of shape trainer training people?
Goodness. Oh yeah.
Or you go to a doctor that smokes, or a broke financial advisor advising people about what to do with their money. Like that's the world. Like, I wouldn't advise a person to go to a broke financial advisor. I wouldn't advise them to go to an out of shape trainer. I wouldn't advise them to go to a doctor that smokes. I would advise them to look at the demonstrated capacity. So I ask, when I'm hiring a coach, for example, there's people that I look at to coach me, and sometimes I need media coaching and I want to know who's coached the top media people in the world. Sometimes I need scaling, how to scale a coaching company or digital transformation. And I'm asking, who is the best guy or girl in the world at this? Sometimes I'm looking, how do I take a concept global? Okay. And I look at people who have taken concepts global. And some of those people are not interested in coaching, by the way. Like, I have reached out to big time people that I knew that were worth $300 or $400 million. And I said, I will pay you to coach me. I'd pay you up to $100,000 to coach me. And they were not interested. They said, look, I'm not interested. I don't want to do it. I've offered to pay other people to coach me. And they said, no, I really like you. I want to mentor you just from a friendship perspective. Like, you don't have to pay me, which I appreciate that. But what I'm looking for is a person who can elevate and accelerate my life. Okay. The reason my $1 Million Coaching Summit is so popular is because over the last 20 years, I've learned how to go from being a high school basketball coach to building this, multi-million-dollar coaching company. I mean, I've learned how to generate millions of dollars through speaking, coaching, training, online, right? That's what I bring to the table, is I know how to do it. Now, I'm always trying to do it at a higher level or a higher frequency, but I think too many people choose coaches, like you said, based on marketing versus knowing what has this coach done? Like, what demonstrated capacity, right? I didn't write a book about how to win championships as a basketball coach until I actually won a championship,
right.
you know, and then here's the funny thing. We couldn't even sell it to other coaches. It's like, they didn't want to learn how to win a championship. And I'm like, well, if you're not even humble enough to know how to do it from a guy who did do it, then you don't need the book.
Right.
Now, the second part is the student. It shocks me, guys, how many people pay for coaching and do not follow the instruction of the coach. It shocks me how many people pay and never show up. It shocks me how many people buy my online academy that never open it or look at it. It shocks me, right? And then, so that, to me, there's a demographic of people there that if I said I was going to coach 5 times a day, they would be on there 5 times a day, right? Like, they're that hungry.
Right.
If I said I'm coaching Saturday night at midnight, they would be on there. They are just eat it up, man. You can't give them enough information. Then there's people that buy it and do nothing with it. So, it's one of those things that you don't know. I like to think about 16% of people are early adopters or innovators. Those are typically people who, in my opinion, jump on an idea and do something with it. Sometimes it takes people a while to get it. And we coach with so much frequency that, I don't know how you don't get it other than you just don't pay attention. Right. But I'm brutal, guys, on people that don't pay attention and don't get it. And then they want to quit. Like, I will not let a person out of an agreement. I haven't seen you. You haven't showed up. You haven't been on any Monday accountability call. You hadn't come to class one time. And now you're telling me it don't work. Well, it don't work, genius, because you're not working it. Because it is working for people that are working it. Okay. So I have no tolerance for people that don't commit to something that they commit to.
I was listening to a speech this past weekend that said a simple phrase, which was, in times of rapid change, the learners will inherit the earth. The learned will suffer. In other words, people that think they know it all and aren't humble are not going to be able to adapt and change. Right now, the world has changed rapidly. It was already changing with automation, things going virtual, but quarantine has really accelerated a lot of that. For our listeners, if they really want to set themselves up for success in the new future that has now been accelerated, what do you believe are the fundamentals that are so important? Like maybe a couple tangible things they can do today so that in a year from now, they are in a position to be marketable and successful.
Well, you have to understand that money doesn't buy you freedom. Skills buys you freedom. The stronger your skill, the more money you're going to generate. There's a direct correlation between how strong your primary skill is and what problem it can solve for another person and how well you get compensated for that solution. So most people never go to work on their skill. Now, this is amazing. This is another amazing thing to me. I will pay for my daughter to go to horse camp to learn to ride horses. I'll pay for her to go to gymnastics to learn to jump and be a gymnast. I'll pay for her to go to basketball camp to learn basketball skills. Why wouldn't I do the same thing as an adult? Why wouldn't I pay for myself to skill up? Right. Okay. For the podcaster that wants to get better at podcasting, you need to learn how to have an effective podcast, right? You need to learn how to get it going. You need to learn how to monetize it. You need to learn all of these things. Like, that's skilling up. So I would tell the people that are out there, you need to be able to solve a problem, fix something, sell something, or add immediate value to some kind of equation. And if you can do those things, you will always be marketable. Right. Now, I'm going to say this, but I don't want to sound bad, but it is true because I run a company. And I would tell you, if I had to lay people off during this cycle, which I haven't, but if I did, I would lay off the least skilled people, the people who are less likely to help us generate revenue, the people that have bad attitudes, the people that don't bring something to the equation, the people come in late and leave early. That's the first people I would lay off. I wouldn't lay off the most skilled person because I think they can help us make money, right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that if you can generate revenue for a company, you're a whole lot less likely to be let go than a person who can't generate revenue. Revenue at the end of the day drives everything, guys. It's not that they're bad people that are getting laid off. It's they don't have enough customers. And when you don't have enough customers, you don't have enough money. When you don't have enough money, something's got to go, right? So you either got to increase your revenue or you got to cut your expenses. Now, right now, companies are trying to do both simultaneously, but the first thing they're doing is they're cutting expenses. Right. Okay. And they're cutting things that are not profitable. They're cutting things that they probably should have cut a long time ago.
Right.
Coach Burt, I remember when we sat down, however long ago it was, one of the things that you said that blew Alan and I out of the water, and now following you and knowing you a little bit better, it doesn't surprise me at all, that you said you did, like, I think, was it 2 or 2.5 hours of prospecting just to start the day, or outbound, right? Yep. So I'll work with people and they'll say, like, yeah, I don't have anybody reaching out to me. And I say, well, of course, like, it doesn't always work that way. Like, you have to do some outbound. So can you give us some tips or some ideas about how to get better at outbound prospecting when it comes to trying to find your ideal client, or just to practice it? Because for a lot of people, and me myself for a while, doing this and calling a stranger is unbelievably hard, right? So can you give us some like early ideas or tips for outbound prospecting and how to get over that initial hump?
Well, nothing happens until something is sold. And selling is about initiating. Selling is presenting an idea to another person and persuading them and convincing them to take action on that idea. Like, it has to be sold. Like, I was coaching a guy in New York City this morning who's developing a new software for real estate professionals to do virtual tours where they can coach a person through the house. At the end of the day, that software has to be sold to someone. It doesn't matter how good it is. Somebody has to sell it. Okay. It doesn't matter how good I am as a coach. Somebody has to reach out to you and say, look, you need to be coached by Coach Burt. Have you considered being a coach? Do you want to do this? Do you want to speak and coach and grow your speaking and coaching business? Do you want to write your first book? Do you want to grow your business? Like, somebody has to sell it. Okay. And so for those people that don't understand that, the purpose of the business is to generate a customer. And so we prospect every day, 80 calls a day, 40 in the morning, 40 in the afternoon, on outbound prospects. Now, many of those are leads that I have generated through online summits, right? Like, I did a summit, 2 summits this weekend where we generated 220 to 30 leads. Then I'm doing a follow-up webinar for those people. Then they go to our active campaign. Then they get in a funnel. Then our salespeople call them, right? Like that. This is where most people fall off the wagon. There has to be a machine behind the machine. Like, I'm out front, I'm speaking and coaching and doing podcasts. Then there has to be someone behind me calling, kind of working it. Who's interested? So we have a selling system. It's in a book I wrote called Legacy Selling that's about to come out. And it shows you the pattern and rhythm of which we go after outbound sales. Hit lists, farm club, top 25, net promoters, new customers, connectors. What it does is it shows you a rhythm of how we work every day, and then how we move somebody from this category to this category. And there's a system that we're working that is a true selling system. So if you're not prospecting a couple hours a day, in my opinion, you're not serious about getting new customers.
Powerful. There's, what do we got for time, Kev? I just want to make sure.
12 minutes. So
okay.
Probably like 7 minutes, so we can give Coach Burt some time to talk about his thangs.
Okay, perfect. So I'm always thinking in the back of my head is, how do we add more value to our listeners? How do we help them improve the quality of their life? Whether that's their intimate relationship, their financial acumen, their business acumen, their ability to sell, their ability to persuade and influence, leadership, all of that. And so one thing keeps jumping off the page. I remember in my life, where did I grow the most in the shortest amount of time? And it's usually when I had a mentor who was really hard on me. And one of them in particular, his name's Alex Goad. And I literally learned more in that 2 months than I had entirely previous to that. And the reason why is he was willing to tell me the hard truth. At the time, I thought he was kind of mean. I'll be completely frank. And now I wish I could go back, and I actually have done this. I messaged him and thanked him for being hard on me. We have this thing called a liking bias. We think we have to like someone to learn from them. I think that is such a huge mistake, because it gives you an aversion to anyone who seems a little brash. But those people that are brash might be willing to tell you the hard truth that other people. One of my fitness coaches, I'll just give you a small example. He literally told me, Alan, out of the 60 pounds you gained in the last 6 months to try to build muscle, 40 of those pounds were fat. Guess what? He's a dear friend of mine now, and I learned more from him about fitness, man, than anyone else on earth. And he was willing to give me that hard truth, and I was willing to swallow it, be humble, and then learn from him. What can we say to our listeners about, you do not have to like someone in order to learn from them?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, I won a championship as a high school basketball coach because I kept thinking I could just work harder and win a championship. I would get to the same place every year. I'd get beat by the same person. I would go home. I'd get mad. I'd blame everybody else. And I thought, well, next year I'll just outwork those people. And the reality was, it wasn't a work ethic problem. It was a strategy problem. And I sat down with 6 coaches that had won championships. I became humble. And the first coach I sat down with for a dinner one night, he sat down, he said, look, it's your meeting. You're paying for my dinner. Ask me the questions you want to ask. And I said, how do I win a championship? I'm interested in winning a championship. And his first word was, you're not interested in winning a championship. Don't lie to me and tell me you're interested in winning a championship. What you want to do is win 20 games, parade around like you're somebody. Like, he just laid into me. I mean, I thought this was going to be a nice dinner. We was going to eat a little chicken mozzarella. You know what I mean? And we were going to sit there and go back and forth about how to win champ. Man, he sat down and said, look, I ain't got time to mess with you. I've won 10 championships and you've won 0 championships. So you ask me the questions, we'll eat dinner, and I'll give you my responses. And I don't care if you like them or not. And that's the first thing I said. I want to win a championship. He immediately came back and said, you're not interested in winning a championship. If you were, your actions would be different. And man, I left that night upset, like you. Like, man, who is he to talk to me like that? But he was right. And I went home and I took his advice and I changed my schedule. I drastically increased my schedule. The very next year we went 38-3 and won the first championship. Now, what happened there? I listened. I was humble. I was coachable. I didn't like it. Too many people get caught up in their emotions, their feelings. Do they like something? Don't like something? I hear this a lot about like a guy like Cardone, and some people like him and some people don't like him. And it really doesn't matter to me. Like, I don't care if you like him or don't like him. I don't care if you like certain people out there in the world or don't like them. That's a feeling, right? What you have to do is get past your feeling and look at, you're going to agree with some things that a person says, and you're going to disagree with some things a person says.
Right.
That's life, right? So to me, if you ever want to be really coached, you got to grow up. You got to, as we say, suck it up, buttercup. And you got to be willing to take the good with the bad, man. Do you really want to get to the next level or not? That's what I would tell you.
Powerful. I watched one of your videos on YouTube, and you were talking about living intentionally on the weekend to get connected to not only yourself, your purpose, your future self, but the people around you. And it's awesome to be able to sit down with somebody like you after we talked like a year ago, because Alan and I are always changing. And I realized one thing that I used to think was probably negative. You're obsessed with this. Like, you're obsessed with all of this, right? But how do you focus on being so intentional all the time? I think that's something Alan and I have really leaned into. I work every day in terms of doing something for this, but I love it. What would you say to somebody who says, like, Coach Burt, you're obsessed? Like, there's no way I could ever get to that level in whatever it is. Maybe it's not sales and persuasion, but anything. What would you say to them?
It's really a desire. At some point in your life, you really have to make a decision to go pro. You know, Stephen Pressfield wrote the book, Go Pro, Do the Work. And what he basically talks about in that book is how he lived like such an amateur for so many years. And he just got sick of being an amateur, right? And I think for me, I've made a decision to go pro. And that's in the body, in the mind, in the heart, in the spirit. You know, I made a decision in all parts of my nature to be a professional. And to go pro, you have to be obsessive.
What
like
made you get sick of it? Was there like a moment where you said, you know what, I'm done?
The grief of knowing what I could be doing, like looking at other people and what they were doing in the world versus what I was doing, going, man, I'm so much stronger than what I'm showing. I can do so much more than what I'm doing. I'm so much more capable than what I'm doing. And I was doing good things, by the way. Right. But I have this internal desire to be known as a national thought leader, to create something, to move towards something, to, you know, and to me, part of going pro is not listening to my feelings. I believe in taking one day off a week, and I did. I took yesterday off because I worked on Saturday. Typically, Saturday is my day off, but I had to work on Saturday because of a conference, and I took yesterday off. I actually took a nap for 30 minutes to an hour. I played with my kid. I went on date night with my daughter. I rode my bike. I worked out. I did, you know, like I am a machine when it comes to working, but I do take time to rejuvenate. I do take time to retreat, to attack. I just think I'm a lot more focused with my time because I have an intensity about me. I'm 43 years old, guys. I'm in the peak of my career. Like, I need to be pushing and exerting as much force and energy as I can right now because that's the only way you're going to be great at something. I mean, name one thing that you've ever been great at that you wasn't a little bit obsessed with.
That's fire. That's a great question right there.
It's a teaser clip.
Yeah. Kev, what do we got for time? I just want to make sure.
6 minutes, so you can hammer a quick one.
One quick question.
It's gotta be quick.
If I only have one. Okay, so I wrote on the whiteboard back here, awareness ? I'll never forget. And Coach Burt, I quote you regularly. Kevin can attest to this.
Absolutely.
The one thing you said to me, success comes down to good decisions, but your decisions can only be good as your understandings.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, oh my goodness, awareness. How do we raise someone's awareness? How do we get someone to want to raise their awareness and honestly realize that their awareness is too low to get to the level they want to get to?
I think exposure will do this. And what I mean by this is the quote that I used there that you're referencing was from The Richest Man in Babylon. It says, every action we take is driven by our thoughts, and our thoughts are no wiser than our understandings, which basically means we can only take action in proportion to our thought patterns. If we have small thoughts, we take small action. Okay. And so many people have such limited perspective. So the question is, how do you raise their perspective? Here's an example. I have a condo down in Nashville, Tennessee. I live about 30 minutes from Nashville, but I got a condo on the 38th floor of the tallest building in Nashville, and it overlooks the city, right? And I took my 7-year-old daughter down there on Saturday night, and I just let her get up on the 38th floor and look at the city. And then I walked her down to Broadway where all the musicians play, and it's closed right now, but I walked her up and down the city, and I said, I want you to see how big this is. I want you to see the possibility and potential. right? Now, when you expose a person to something, see, she didn't have an awareness of it. Now she does have an awareness of it. If you want to activate a person's prey drive, expose them to something they've never done before. Okay. And you guys know I have a jet. I bought a jet a year or two ago. Then I upgraded to a newer one. When you take a person on that for the very first time and it exposes them to flying private versus flying commercial, they never want to go back to flying commercial.
Okay? You're in Massachusetts, we're always out for a ride.
Exactly.
Yeah, that thing has been parked for a little while. I'm ready to get back on it and go somewhere. But my point is, I remember the first time I flew on a private jet that I chartered back in those days. I rented it and I was like, man, this is crazy. And then I got to the point where me and one other person purchased one, and it exposes you. Now you have a different awareness. Now your awareness is higher. You went from not knowing to knowing. Like Maya Angelou said, when we know better, we do better. But until we know better, we can't do better. So I think, to answer your question, to me, I try to expose people to something, show them something they didn't see before, show them a book, show them a video, show them a way of life, show them until you have that, you get caught up in thinking, this is it, man. This is all it's ever going to be. This is the car I'm going to drive. This is the house I'm going to live in. This is the person I'm going to marry. This is the money I'm going to make. You never get exposed to something bigger. And I think that's what activates your prey drive, is exposure.
Powerful.
Speaking of books and videos, tell the listeners where they can learn about your books and videos, Coach Burt.
Yeah, sure. The best place to go to get all of my material is at coachburt.com. And you can follow me on Instagram. I like you to go to my Facebook fan page, Coach Micheal Burt, where I put out videos and content every single day. YouTube, I have thousands of videos on YouTube. Our subscribers on YouTube have drastically gone up during this pandemic cycle. So more people are watching my videos every day that we're pumping out. So we want to just keep pumping stuff out. But I'm in the business of coaching people. And if you're out there and you like my message, you like my mindset, you like my methodology, I'm looking for people that want to go to a higher frequency through our coaching program, A Monster Producer. Or if you want to speak, coach, train, write books, I finally feel qualified to teach people how to do that. So I'm doing $1 Million Coaching Summits where you come and spend 2.5 days with me, and I actually show you how to monetize your message and make millions of dollars with a book, with an idea, with the concept, with the coaching program. And that's a $5,000 investment, but you can make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars from learning what it took me 18 years to learn. So those are some things that I think people can take action on.
Let's set the intention, Alan, to be at that as soon as humanly possible, for sure.
Absolutely.
You guys would go through that coaching summit, and with your mindset that you have that I really respect, you would go through that and learn the tools you need to really blow up your coaching businesses.
Well, we appreciate it. It's done. It's in the future. We just got to catch up to it. That's all.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I appreciate you. Your humility is something that I've always been a fan. Even when we first met you, it's like you're just a down-to-earth guy. You're just a regular guy, but you're extraordinary at the same time. So I appreciate your time today. Again, another fire interview from Coach Micheal Burt.
Hey, you guys ask the great questions, man. You make it easy on me. So thank you for saying everything. We appreciate you. And everybody needs a good coach in life. Thank you guys for letting me join you.
Thank you so much. Micheal Burt, if you need anything, never hesitate to reach out, okay?
You got it, man.
Talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Bye-bye.
Bye.